3 random reviews. First off, we have The King. This is a film my friend told me to watch. It's a Netflix film, and I gave it a watch, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. This is from 2019, and it follows King Henry V, played brilliantly by Timothée Chalamet, as he becomes heir to the throne after his father and brother die. He was a son who got drunk and partied and fucked women before being put in the position of being on the throne, changing him as a person. We follow his story as a young man as he is forced to go to war with France with the help of his trusted friend, played very well by Joel Edgerton. The soundtrack, the cinematography, the acting, the writing, the set pieces, it was all really top tier stuff, and it really pulls you in. It's very gripping. I was completely engrossed, and I don't usually expect this sort of quality from a Netflix film. That's why I was so pleasantly surprised. But this is the sort of film that actually should have just been released in the cinema, because it really is like that level of quality, because most Netflix stuff is very throwaway. I've never really been into monarchy and all that stuff, kings and queens. It's never really fascinated me all that much, but this was a very interesting story. It felt quite unique, and it's hard not to get completely drawn into it and root for Henry. Robert Pattinson also features here as a French prince. He was good in his little feature, but the star really was Chalamet. There's something haunting about his aura here, matched with the soundtrack and tone that show how dark and dismal war really is, and why Henry wanted to avoid it from the start. I didn't get super emotionally attached like I have in other movies of a similar nature, but it was still very engrossing, and you still root for the characters. You still want to see them succeed, and it's just a very fascinating story and hard to look away from. I would give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. On the rewatchability rating, I would say rewatch occasionally. Next up, we have Manchester by the Sea. This is from 2016. It's starring Casey Affleck as a man who's very depressed, and after his brother dies, he is left as the guardian to his teenage son. I'd heard of this film for a while, but just never got round to watching it, as I do with a lot of films. But I looked into the plot for this, and it intrigued me, and I'm also a fan of Casey Affleck, so I thought it was definitely worth a watch. And it was worth a watch. Affleck is brilliant here. He really does come across as someone who has little to no hope left in his life, and his performance was really convincing, and you just root for him. Every other performance was great too, such as the character of his nephew. Their dynamic was interesting because one scene they could be friendly, the next not so much, because they're both people that are hurting, so the arguments and the bitterness can just sort of emerge out of nowhere, and it ends up making what you think is going to be a calm scene become quite a tense scene. The film also makes great use of not using dialogue. They will have these scenes where characters are talking, but it's inaudible. It's like you're across the other side of the room watching characters speak, but you don't know what they're saying. You can't quite make it out. But because of the quality of the acting here, it's kind of the whole story is being told through their face, and you can see sort of the misery and the pain. You can tell the whole story there. You know, the film makes you look and study these characters, their facial expressions, their emotions, their body language, to understand what they're going through and understand how the story is progressing. This is a very unique movie. It's one of those films that doesn't feel like it necessarily has an end goal, but it's about the evolution of these characters and their ability to overcome tragedy. I think because of that, the ending to this film can feel a little bit sudden, like, oh, that's it. You know, it kind of just ends. And it ends on a scene where it could have ended in any scene, almost. But honestly, this wasn't about ending the film on a happy or a sad, conclusive note. It was just about sort of going through a little journey with these characters and seeing how they have changed from the start of the film to the end. It would have felt scripted if they'd gone for some like particularly happy or sad definitive ending. But you know, it didn't do that, which I think worked for this movie. This is a gritty and sad movie, but one that also has those hopeful moments, and the balance is good. It never feels cheesy or goofy. It doesn't feel Hollywoodized. It feels real. Again, I would give this an 8.5 out of 10, and on the rewatchability rating, I would say rewatch occasionally again. Knives Out. So yeah, this is one that I've never got round to watching because I knew it was made by Rian Johnson, who I still begrudge for making The Last Jedi. But seeing as there is a sequel coming up to this, I need to put that grievance to the side and give this movie a watch because I have heard good things about Knives Out. This is a murder mystery done in a bit of a tongue-in-cheek manner with a strong cast, and it's an entertaining movie. It's a whodunit involving a rich family in a manor house, but rather than making you wait until the end to find out big things, you're told around an hour into the movie. This in turn sort of heightens the stakes because we know something that the lead detective, which is Daniel Craig with a very southern accent, doesn't know. You know, we know some stuff. he doesn't know some stuff, and that almost sets it up in a sense of, okay, so what is going to be the big reveal here? What are we actually going to learn if we already know the truth? But there ends up being more to discover here. There's way more to this plot than meets the eye, which makes it quite a fun, like, roller coaster. This film, like a lot of films that are trying to solve a mystery and leave it to the end to tell you, it does have that sort of cliche scene where someone explains everything at once. They figured it all out, so they tell you how everything pieces together, and it can be a bit much. It can be a bit full on because you kind of have to stop for a second and be like, okay, how does that piece? You know, it makes sense, but you almost need to really, like, pay attention or rewind a little bit, just because it's almost like having a load of exposition thrown at you. You just kind of have to deal with it, and unfortunately it's a drawback that you often get with movies like this, where they can't tell you everything until the end. But regardless of that, it was a very clever plot, I thought. I do like the way it pieced together. I thought it felt, you know, pretty unique compared to other murder mysteries. It, you know, it had its own unique personality to it, and, you know, I liked all the colourful characters that we had here as well. And it was a good cast as well. You got Ana de Armas and Chris Evans and, of course, Daniel Craig and, you know, Michael Shannon. A good cast all around. This was a fun film. You know, it had the unique elements and the fun characters, and it just made it a film worth watching, I would say. But at times it does suffer the usual cliches that a film like this often will. I would give this movie an 8 out of 10, and I would rewatch this on late night TV. Of course, I'll do a review for the sequel when that comes out. I think it's Glass Onion. It's going to be coming straight out on Netflix, so, you know, we usually know what that means, but as I said, The King was a good one, so this could be another good one as well. But yeah, if you've seen any of these movies, let me know what you think about it, and if you've got any suggestions that you want me to do for some old movies that you want reviewed that I may not have seen, let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.